made from this bill requires too much for our youngest children. This does not prohibit at all what we've been teaching to younger kids for years, which I thought was always very, very appropriate for them. So I urge passage.
Thank you. Are there further remarks? Representative Dolan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As a former first grade teacher, back in 1973 to 1978, I actually taught what the things that are in this bill for primary students. We talked about things like how to keep themselves healthy, safe, and happy. We talked about things like how to be a good friend to someone else. We role-played how to be a good friend. We talked about Danger Stranger. I don't know how many of you remember the movie Kindergarten Cop. They do a great job in that movie showing how you teach little kids to not talk to strangers. And if they ever feel like they're unsafe or in danger, they need to go to an adult that they trust, who they know will help them. And so these are the things that we're talking about with our youngest students. Those are important things for every child to learn, so I believe we need to keep that in this bill. Thank you. I urge a no vote.
Thank you. Are there further remarks? Representative Steele.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I absolutely appreciate the comments from the good lady from the 22nd. And I believe this amendment that we're offering does in fact reaffirm that we are teaching those things in these younger grades. And we've heard from parents, again, all over the state that said, we're not necessarily against teaching our students, giving our students the tools they need to be successful and to be able to navigate adult life. But let's wait until they're mature enough and old enough to receive that information in a way that makes sense for them. And I think that's simply what this amendment says. You know, if you're in kindergarten, you have things you need to learn about being a good human, being a compassionate human, learning not to bully folks. Those are all things that we should be spending our time on. So this amendment simply says we're going to unwrap comprehensive sexual education from grades K through 6. That makes a lot of sense, and I think you'll have a lot more support from parents all over the state and members of this committee if we can make this amendment stick. So I urge a yes vote.
Further remarks? Representative Collier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know if you guys read your emails, but I read every single email that comes through, and I have had thousands of emails from people from the community saying that they do not want the younger children to be taught comprehensive sexual education. I think that our role as representatives in our part of the government should be to listen to the public. And this is what the public is saying, that they do not want this. I urge your support on this amendment because we need to listen to the people and we need to do what they want, not what we want. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there further remarks? Representative Berquist.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, I have a kindergartner and a 4-year-old at home and married to a doctor, a child psychiatrist actually. Our kids do need this education, and they really need to understand what good and bad touching is and signs of domestic abuse. And they should be able to talk about those issues at all grade levels and make sure that they understand when it's time to say no and the other issues that they might see if they're not taught about that in our schools. Where are they going to learn about domestic abuse issues and other very serious pieces? I urge you no.
Thank you. Are there further remarks? Representative Corey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm urging a yes on this amendment for a couple reasons, and I think there's been good points brought up. And what we need to do is we need to separate the notion of sex education with healthy relationships in earlier grades, and we've done that. We've got other provisions that we look at to keep kids safe, whether that's Aaron's Law, some of our social emotional learning practices that we're looking at, and those are good things, right? We want to keep kids safe. We want them to understand what that is. And as a parent of 4 children, I can tell you what my K-6 sex ed healthy relationship piece is explaining to them that you keep your hands to yourself. People aren't supposed to put your hands on you, and if somebody does something, you tell a trusted adult. Okay, we're done. I mean, it's pretty simple. Obviously, you have those conversations in the home where they belong, My concern here is we're first of all, we're ignoring a lot of people across the state by not adopting this amendment if we choose not to adopt it today. It is something that parents across the state have said, we don't want sex education this young. And so this provides a protection for parents. You can still address some of the other things we're talking about here in other areas of our law and in other areas of legislation. But all this does is it simply acknowledges the role of sex education is not a K-6 piece. And I think decoupling the healthy relationships and the social emotional learning piece makes this a better bill. And it makes it more clear for parents. So I would urge a yes on this. I think this is the right direction.
Thank you. Are there further remarks? Representative Stonier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My concern with this amendment is technical nature. The health standards that our teachers and our districts are adhering to in grades 4 and 5 include concepts around human growth and development. And when we have an amendment that strikes some of those health standards from starting grade 6, we're actually rolling back the important health information students have in some of the grades already on the books. And I urge a no vote.
Are there further remarks? Representative Steele.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I appreciate the comments that have been made already this morning around this amendment, but again, I want to reiterate that we should not be conflating sexual education with health education. And I think there are ways that we could have crafted this bill that would have gotten us to the point that the gentlelady from the 49th mentions, without having to go down this road of really taking away some of the innocence of children way too early. We can still teach about healthy bodies, we can still teach about healthy touch, we can still teach about the way your body is maturing without conflating sexual intercourse, sexual transmission, all these other things in these early grades. So I think there are, again, ways that we can get to a yes on a bill that gives the students at the appropriate ages the tools they need to be successful. And I think that's why we need to adopt this amendment, so urging a yes.
Are there further remarks? Representative Ibarra.
Yes.
I'd like to agree with my representative from District 12. Having sat on the Social Emotional Learning Committee and come up with all of the indicators in social emotional learning, a lot of the things that some other representatives in this room have talked about the unwanted touching, unwanted bullying, unwanted things that kids should already know and are usually taught at home are in the social emotional learning indicators and the standards that they have there. They're coming through, it's something that's already there, so why do we want to put it here?
Thank you. Are there further remarks? The chair urges a no vote. I would remind the members of the 2005 Sexual Health Information and Disease Prevention Guidelines that were jointly developed by the Department of Health and the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction. This is the basis upon which our health standards are built. All of the information that we are using for our health standards, including our sexual health education standards, are built on this framework. And so if you, it's like a game of Jenga. When you remove the building blocks that are at the lowest point of the tower that you've built, then you actually increase the risk of the entire structure falling down. I definitely need to ask that the members also take a look at the definition of these standards that are embedded in the statute that is in the striking amendment underneath. That is what you would be removing. And I think that if you were to look at those standards, you would find that those are very appropriate building blocks. The physiological, psychological, and sociological development processes experienced by an individual at various ages. The development of interpersonal and interpersonal skills to communicate respectfully and effectively, to reduce health risks and choose healthy behaviors. Healthcare and prevention resources Those might be things as simple as making sure that you're always washing your hands, that you're covering your mouth when you cough. These are, again, the building blocks upon which our students are gonna learn about health and healthy behaviors in general. So I urge a no vote. Are there further remarks? Representative Steele.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Certainly appreciate the references to the 2005 standards. I think we all appreciate that the standards alone are relatively benign. However, the challenges that we're facing is we're asking these local school districts to take those standards and either adopt curriculum that's been approved by OSPI, or adopt curriculum that's meeting those standards. And I think, frankly, Madam Chair, some of those curriculum have some disturbing things that grade bands way too early for a lot of our parents to be supportive of. So I think the reason this amendment is here before us is that we're trying to say, we agree, we concur with the standards that are out there that exist today. They're relatively benign, we can teach those things, but we don't need to interlace it with some of the potential curriculums that have some fairly unique, I will say, standards around sexual education. So I would urge a yes on this amendment today.
Further remarks, Representative Callen.
Thank you, Chair Santos. So I appreciate your reference to the Jenga. I think it is really important that what we understand is those fundamental building blocks that we're building and talking about with our social emotional curriculum around all the things that we need to do starting at kindergarten and moving forward really is the iterative learning process and keeps it age appropriate and where we're going to go to ultimately keep our children safe and give them the understanding of what they need to have as safe adults when they're older. So working through as a school board director, pushing it hard on what curriculum development looks like, what does community engagement and local control look like. I think it's imperative to allow the local processes to engage. I understand the difficulties around that, but our districts have been doing it since inception. Developing curriculum, involving parents in engagement in this process, and allowing our local communities to actually have good, strong input on what that scaffolding and stepping stones are gonna look like that looks and works for every child in their district is exactly what we're talking about and exactly what's stated in the underlying bill. Underlying striker, I should say.
Thank you. Are there further remarks? Seeing none, a roll call vote on the amendment has been requested. The clerk will call the roll.
Steele. Dolan. Paul. McCaslin. Volz.
Yes.
Berquist.
No.
Caldier. Callan. Corey.
Aye.
Harris.
Yes.
Ortiz Self. Rude.
Aye.
Stonier. Ty.
No.
Valdez.
No.
Ibarra.
Aye.
Santos.
Okay. The clerk will call the roll.
There are 8 ayes, 9 nays, 0 absent or excused.
The motion fails. Are there further amendments? There are. Representative Caldier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move amendment Mowat 134.
It has been moved and seconded that the amendment on page 1, line 18 of the striking amendment be adopted. This is also known as Mowat 134. Are there remarks? Representative Caldier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A few weeks ago, my 10-year-old nephew was playing on his Xbox, and one of the people that he had been playing with said, hey, I got something really cool for you to check out. And he clicked on the link, and it was pornography. And my nephew freaked out and told my sister. And, my sister said, I've taught him to, be careful on the computer. I never once thought that someone would prey on a kid on Xbox. I thought that the Xbox was safe. And she said, I'm so grateful that I have such a good relationship with my son that he came and told me, but, you know, even on the Xbox, he kept saying, you know, hey, I'm only 10, this is gross. And she said, this is something that I know I want taught to my children at school. And this is something that we should be teaching in school. And I know that we passed Aaron's Law, but I think that we need to go a step further. And so that's why I put forward this amendment, and I hope you guys will accept it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there further remarks? Representative Stonia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I would absolutely agree with the representative that our kids are constantly bombarded with risks in an online environment, on their phones, their games. Where children are is exactly where predators go. And exactly why we already mandate internet safety lessons in schools, which is why I'm urging a no vote, not because it's not necessary to teach that, but because it's already in current law. I myself have taught common sense media lessons to middle school and high school kids. I understand that the lessons that we teach help children know how to be safe in online environments, not just at school, but in all areas. And so I'm asking for a no vote, not because the amendment is not necessary, but because it's already required. And I would agree with the good lady that we should increase the frequency that those lessons are taught to avoid instances like her nephew encountered. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there further remarks? Representative Corey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm strongly urging a yes vote. And while I agree with the good lady from the 49th that we do have some of those, there's lots of provisions, I think, in this bill that we're reiterating. So why not strengthen that with a yes on this? I don't think it does any harm. I think it actually makes our kids safer. And if we are already referencing other stuff such as Aaron's Law in this bill and other areas, let's add this. I mean, what's the harm in saying, yes, this is so important that we are going to underline it and address it and make sure in law that it's there on this bill. Please vote yes.
Are there further remarks? Representative Caldiero.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did want to mention that it's my understanding my nephew is not being taught that in school. And if there is a disconnect between what we have said for the school districts to teach in this manner and what they're actually teaching, I think that we should have language in there to strengthen that. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there further remarks? Representative Berquist.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I feel like school districts do have policies in place on this. We have filters set up. They talk about when the sites you should not be on, what's inappropriate content, and when it is accessed by a student, it usually is flagged. And they already have policies around this. We talk about this in school. I'm urging a no for this.
Representative Corey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I apologize. If we feel that there's procedures in place, that's one thing, but to make sure that we know and outline it is another thing. I currently have a 13-year-old child in care with us right now who has one of the Chromebooks that's provided by the district, and let me tell you, those filters are pretty weak. We found some stuff that she wasn't supposed to have access to, and we had to go into IT to get it fixed. So I understand that we feel that they should or they do, but let's put a line in the sand and say, no, you're gonna do this, and we're gonna hold your feet to the fire. Please vote yes.
Thank you. Are there further remarks? The chair urges a no vote on this amendment. You know, as the good lady from the 49th indicated, our children really are bombarded. We are bombarded on all the technology and access to technology that we have. I think the important element of the underlying bill is to be able to provide our students with the skills and knowledge that help them navigate a world that we can't always know what is ahead of them. And so rather than addressing the availability, the wide availability of unwanted materials, we can't always be sure where the next assault, if you will, is going to come from. And so it becomes even more essential that we ensure that our students are given those tools that allow them to make those healthy choices around what to do when they encounter something that is suspect or something that they don't feel good about. And that they have the kind of language that allows them to be their own self-agents and to know to whom they may report their strange feelings or strange encounters. And so with that, I must ask that we turn down this amendment and really focus on the underlying knowledge and skills that we are trying to equip our students with. Are there further remarks? Seeing none, a roll call has been requested. The clerk will call the roll.
Steele. Dolan. Hall. McCaslin. Bowles.
Aye.
Berquist.
No.
Collier.
Aye.
Allen. Corey.
Aye.
Harris.
Aye.
Ortiz Selk. Rude.
Aye.
Stonier. Ty. Valdez. Ibarra. Santos.
Nay. The clerk will announce the vote.
There are 8 ayes, 9 nays, 0 absent or excused.
The motion fails. Are there further amendments? There are. Representative McCaslin.